Da Gwaza mkonto gwaza, gwaza mkonto gwaza, jigijela mkonto jigijela. Hands off President Jacob Zuma, hands off. Hands off Duduzile, hands off. Amanda. Away two. Mai Buye. Ya Afrika. Mai Buye KwaZulu Natal, Mai Buye. Mai Buye KwaZulu Natal, Mai Buye. Amanda. Away two. Siyabonga kakhulu National Chairperson Nkosi Nathi Hleko. Before we ask the President to come and greet all of us, allow us to take this opportunity to summarize just in few minutes what this neo-colonial state, the government of Ramaphosa, is doing, what brought us together here today. The reason we're gathered here today is because of the abuse of state power and state institutions. Something that has been done for many years against President Jacob Zuma. So the same abuse of the state power which happened on President Zuma in 1962, 1963, when he was taken to Durban Island at the age of 21, is the same abuse that is being meted out on his daughter, a leader of Umkhonto weSizwe and a member of parliament, a leader of the Pan-African Parliament, Duduzile Zuma. The same charge that was meted on President Zuma when he was age 21 of the suppression of communism or terrorism in different names is the same charge that is being brought against Duduzile Zuma. The state has brought a case now. They went to unravel apartheid laws. The Righteous Assemblies Act, which was passed in 1956 to suppress the Freedom Charter. The Terrorism Act of 1967. They went to fetch all those laws to try to persecute and criminalize Duduzile Zuma. And why are they doing so? The reason they are doing so is because on the 7th of July, 2021, the South African government and state unlawfully arrested President Jacob Zuma, unconstitutionally arrested President Zuma. And the people of South Africa, the fearless ground forces of South Africa, said we will never allow wrong things, injustice to be meted out against President Zuma. And they took to the streets, they demonstrated legitimate action against the unconstitutional and unlawful conduct of the state. And in observing that, the comrades and the ground forces are protesting against the unlawful arrest of President Zuma. Duduzile correctly said, "We see you, comrades." She says, "I see you." And for that reason, this government of Ramaphosa goes to employ 15 prosecutors to go and investigate a case against her for almost 4 years now. And 4 years later, they come back and say she must be arrested, she must be held accountable for saying, "I see you." This happens against the fact that South Africa has got so many unresolved cases of gender-based violence, so many unresolved cases of corruption and wrongdoing. There's a case of money that is stolen and hidden under a sofa in Palapala. And none of those 15 prosecutors are investigating such. 15 people with legal qualifications are going to investigate just a sentence of ICU. Why are they doing that? For 4 years they were not acting. They are doing all these things because they are continuing with what they started many years ago of trying to suppress and oppress the politics, the revolutionary politics of President Jacob Zuma and what he represents. They are doing all these things because they realize that outside of the fact that biologically Duduzile Zuma is the daughter of President Zuma, she is also an ideological daughter. He has reproduced himself in terms of determination, in terms of focus, in terms of radicalism, in terms of spirit of no surrender, no retreat, in terms of spirit of not collaborating with the white capitalist establishment. So they want to suppress the politics because they've realized now that on their own, without President Zuma doing anything, she has been rightfully elected as a member of parliament. Without President Zuma saying anything, she has been elected as a chairperson of the Southern Caucus in the Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Parliament represents all the parliaments of South Africa, and she is chairing one of the most influential caucuses. So in response, because they don't have politics to suppress such, they then go and invoke the laws. They abuse state power in the same way they've been doing against President Zuma in the 1960s. In the same way they've been doing against President Zuma in the so-called armed deals charges. They think that they can abuse state power to suppress now the emergence of Mkondo Wesizwe, which is here to stay, which is here to take over this government and bring about total freedom. So all these things, comrades, it's an act of intimidation. That is what happens to all collapsing regimes and governments. Whenever they realize a real possibility of being taken out of power, they do everything to suppress a force that is going to take them out of power. But we want to warn the government of Ramaphosa of the ANC that there is nothing you can do that will stop Mkondo Wesizwe from removing you from power. We're going to start with 2026, where we're going to take all the municipalities from the former liberation movement, which has been hijacked by opportunists who are counting Stellenbosch. In 2029, there won't be a coalition government in South Africa. There won't be a GNU in South Africa. There will be a government of Mkondo Wesizwe with a decisive majority of 2/3 majority. Because more and more people of South Africa are beginning to realize that here is a progressive unified force that is going to bring about true liberation. And they know that this movement is led by a fearless freedom fighter, President Jacob Mhlanganyelwa Zuma. Comrades, we can go into the books and echelons of history. You will never trace anywhere where President Zuma was a collaborationist or even accused of collaborating with the white capitalist establishment. Not once. that even during the negotiation period, when the movement sent him back here in South Africa to start with the talks before talks, he never once compromised principle on the altar of political convenience. He never once sold out the Freedom Charter. He never once sold out on the fact that we must fight for the return of our land. Even when there were distractions that were sponsored, he never faltered, he never fell into the trap. We know that there were distractions when he was the head of state and president. There were sponsored disruptions and distractions to his presidency. Anyone can go and check during that period. He always said on record that let us expropriate land without compensation. He always said let us bring about free education for all up until higher education level. He always said let us take the economy from the white minority and give it to the black majority. That is why scientifically and statistically you can confirm now that more and more black people got to be liberated economically under President Zuma. He's the only president and head of state who built 2 universities here in South Africa. He's the only president who introduced free education at higher education level. But these other ones, they come and suppress that. They employ all forms of intimidation. So these things that they are doing here, of employing 15 prosecutors, is an act of intimidation. But ourselves, as Mkondo Wesizwe, we must stand firm and say, we are not afraid of them. Asibasabi. That is the principle that we must maintain all the time. We must always say that, come from whatever direction, we are ready for you because we command the ground. More and more South Africans are beginning to realize that all other formations won't bring about true freedom. It is only Mkondo Wesizwe that is going to bring true freedom and emancipation for all the people. So thank you very much, comrades, on behalf of Mkondo Wesizwe, that you came here to give support to our Member of Parliament, Honorable Duduzile Zuma, who has been persecuted by the state. That case will not go anywhere. There's not even the slightest chance that you can imprison someone for saying, I see you. It will never happen. So comrades, we thought that let's take this brief opportunity to deal with all the summaries of what is happening here today. I'm also asked by the National Chairperson Mgiliji to introduce and call the President of Mkondo Wesizwe. I'm going to call a true revolutionary, a leader who is leading from the front, who is reproducing himself politically